Good afternoon and or evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fiscal Philosophy YouTube channel. Healthcare stocks seem to be taking a little bit of a beating in our portfolio. We have UnitedHealth Group, which had a healthy run up into earnings and has bled off a bit in the aftermath of it, even though they had a slight beat on EPS and things seem not to be deteriorating. They're still languishing a little bit price-wise, and they seem to be sticking around the mid 300s at this point in time. We're anticipating, hopefully, a break up towards perhaps 400 and even beyond, rather than a retracement back to the 350s. So this is most disconcerting if the price action is important. And of course, full disclosure, I do have exposure to a LEAPS contract with this, so the price does matter somewhat. Now, I do also have common stock, in which case that is fine. That's more of a longer term hold. Good there. But still, troubling to see this. But other healthcare stocks that I'm into have also had pullbacks. For example, even Clover had a pullback, and earnings for another one are actually tomorrow. What other stock could I possibly be talking about other than our beloved Medical Properties Trust, the healthcare REIT that owns, hundreds of hospitals, etc. around the world? And of course, they've been beaten up massively over the last few years. There was short reports, there was tenant bankruptcies, one of which is still ongoing, however, progressing. And I'm hearing wild predictions about this. Some people anticipate perhaps a dividend hike in the near future. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. However, I do think to get out of the range that it's been trading in, a dividend hike would go a long way for people looking for consistent yield, which REIT investors, that tends to be what they want. They want something that's consistent, that's steady, possibly even growing, and that's better than buying, say, treasuries. On a go-forward basis, I think what I would really like to see is a stabilization and a climb up of their rental revenue. We're talking about projections of $1 billion plus in annualized rental revenue being an inflection point with the business. And as the steward operators ramp up to full rent, we should actually see this. That process, of course, has already started, but it does continue, and it is not fully complete yet. And what follows should also be an increase of funds from operations. An ample increase in funds from operations would then, in turn, allow them to do what people are wanting to do regarding the dividend, which would be to start to raise it again. However, I do like the fact that they have not thus far rushed to do that, and I think it is important for management to sort of take a beat and make sure that their business is resilient and able to sustain any dividend increases, because it would be a real bad look if they jumped it up just to have to cut it again later. The market is still, I think, reeling from the Steward bankruptcy, the Prospect bankruptcy, and just all of the information put out there. Some of it maybe misinformation, arguably, from some of the short sellers. So you see a divergence of opinions. There's not a very tight consensus on this name. Some analysts have it kind of languishing here at $4 or $5. Some think that it's got a $9 price target, and your retail is equally as split. There are some people that really believe in the name and are super bullish on it. You'll find them in my Discord, and on the contrary side, you'll find some people that think it's kind of just a cult stock and a meme stock, nothing to it. Some of them also in my Discord, by the way. And I think for my part, I was probably a little bit early to this name. It had just started to get kind of beaten up over some rumors and some, trouble signs regarding Steward. But bankruptcy had not been filed yet, and there was some smoke being blown for sure on that front. And I picked it up thinking, hey, if there's not much to this, then we could see a price recovery. That did not happen. However, from current levels, I remain overall optimistic on the name. They certainly had their model completely stress tested, though. I'm glad that they survived and were not a zero, as some promised. Now, changing gears real quick back to UnitedHealth for just a moment. This one is another example of just how widely divergent opinions are. Some people are super bullish and think it's got to go back to the 600s from here, so maybe almost a double. And others think, oh no, this is a $200 stock, so an almost 50% drop potentially on the other end. So some people think it should double, some think it should almost fall in half. Could not be more different. And this is another one where I think the truth of the matter is probably somewhere in the 400 to 500 range is where it ought to go if their guidance about what adjustments they're making for 2026 come into line. I think it's also important to recognize that in the US right now, healthcare is a bit of a political football. So when there's, we're in the midst of a shutdown in the government and some tense negotiations, or maybe no negotiations, depending on who you listen to, and Medicare, Medicaid, the ACA, these are all things that are kind of part of and tied up in that conversation. And I think it's normal to see some volatility in healthcare around that, because people are trying to read the tea leaves on what it all means and where the chips are actually going to fall. For my 2 cents, I don't know specifically where the exact chips will fall, but I do know UnitedHealth is a very strong business. They control a lot of the flow of funds in the whole healthcare sector, and I believe that they are a generally well-structured and well-managed business that's resilient and will make the adjustments to whatever the new normal is, wherever those chips fall, for the long term, and probably at these levels will generate good shareholder returns. It's a bit of a tradition around here that I do Medical Properties Trust earnings live on the channel, so write me below if you want me to do that. Comment on UNH or MPW, any other healthcare stocks you're in, what your thinking is on that. Do the algo stuff, subscribe, maybe like the video, join my Discord in the description. It's free. Catch me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Cashflow Kings Live. See you later.